this point, if you are not suspicious of the story, it's because you believe what you want to believe. And there were a lot of politicians who, as it turns out, believed what they wanted to believe about this story. We're talking everybody from Nancy Pelosi to Maxine Waters to Kamala Harris. Nancy Pelosi said the racist, homophobic attack on Jussie Smollett is an affront to our humanity. Maxine Waters said it's coming from the President of the United States. He's dog whistling every day. Kamala Harris said this was an attempted modern-day lynching. And politicians all over the left-wing spectrum decided to weigh in. AOC said there is no such thing as racially charged. This attack was not possibly homophobic. It was a racist and homophobic attack. If you don't like what is happening to our country, then work to change it. It is no one's job to water down or sugarcoat the rise of hate crimes. And the reason that she tweeted that is because Entertainment Tonight had originally run with the headline, Jussie Smollett has been hospitalized in Chicago after a possible homophobic and racially charged attack. Okay, the reason they said possible is because it might not have happened. Right? Which makes it awkward that it might not have happened. And anyone who heard the story, your first thought had to be, was this real? Like, every element of it seemed like too much. Every element, whenever there's a story where every element seems like it's too much, you got to think to yourself, maybe this is a hoax. Unfortunately, there have been lots of racial hoaxes in the past where people claim to have been victimized in a hate crime and it turns out not to be true. This one smelled like a hoax from the very beginning. Nonetheless, Jussie Smollett was treated with all of the sensitivity due to his claim, and specifically because the media loves to run with the narrative that America is a racist, homophobic place, this became top news across the country, even though the claims didn't make any sense. Again, two guys in the dead of night in Chicago in 10 degree below weather who watch Empire but also are MAGA fans. And were screaming at Jussie Smollett that night, this is MAGA country in the middle of Chicago, which apparently went 193% against Donald Trump in the last election cycle. So it was a very weird story from the beginning. That didn't stop the media from jumping all in with both feet. Good Morning America featured Jussie Smollett on their show yesterday, where he cried and he acted. It's like he's an actor or something. He said, I am not weak. I'm not weak.
Why did you hesitate to call the police?
There's a level of pride there. We live in a society where, as a gay man, you are considered somehow to be weak. And I'm not weak. I am not weak. And we are, as a people, are not weak.
Well, no one was suggesting that gay people are weak. That doesn't answer why you wouldn't call the police when a hate crime takes place against you. Like, that's a weird answer. And then he says he just couldn't believe that people were doubting him. How could people doubt him? It's just terrible. Just terrible.
I'm pissed off.
What is it that has you so angry? Is it the attackers?
It's the attackers, but it's also the attacks. It's like, you know, at first it was a thing of like, listen, if I tell the truth, then that's it, because it's the truth. Mm-hmm. Then it became a thing of like, oh, how can you doubt that? Like, how do you not believe that? It's the truth. And then it became a thing of like, oh, it's not necessarily that you don't believe that this is the truth. You don't even want to see the truth.
No, it turns out that we sort of believe that it might not be the truth. Because ABC Chicago reported yesterday in a shocking blow, mainstream media hardest hit, that Jussie Smollett was probably not telling the truth about this. Here's ABC 7 Chicago report last night.
Police are now questioning the two people seen in this surveillance photo. One, an actor on Empire. Chicago police say there is no evidence the persons of interest were involved in that physical attack described by Smollett. Multiple sources are telling Eyewitness News that Smollett and the two men are being questioned by police for staging the attack, allegedly because his character was being written out of the show.
Now, it is true that Fox came back and they said, oh, we weren't writing Jussie out. Jussie was never going to be written out of the show. So we have a bunch of conflicting stories. But here is what we do know at this point. ABC 7 Chicago said that Smollett failed to appear for an interview with detectives earlier on Thursday. They say that they were investigating whether these two men staged an attack. The way that they tracked down these two guys is by going through Jussie Smollett's phone. Apparently, the report is that he had turned over an Excel spreadsheet with a phone log that had deleted certain calls. So they compared his actual phone log, which I guess they'd subpoenaed, with the calls that he said he had made. And then they only looked at the ones that he deleted. And that's how they tracked down these two guys. He had said in that Good Morning America interview, by the way, that those two people in the picture walking down the street, those were definitely the two guys who attacked him So you can't have it both ways. Either he is telling the truth and those are the two guys who attacked him and it turns out they're his friends, or he's not telling the truth and those were not the two guys who attacked him. It was another two guys who attacked him. A source briefed on the Smollett investigation confirmed to ABC News that Chicago police are questioning the two persons of interest, one of whom has actually appeared on Empire. The law enforcement official also told ABC News that the homes of the persons of interest were raided on Wednesday night. Police removed shoes, electronic devices, and any other items they believe could help determine if the two people played any role in the assault. Neighbors described a swarm of officers and K-9 units. Jamie Figueroa, a neighbor, said, "I was walking in the alley. One police car stopped in the alley and they told me to go inside the house. But by then, 5 minutes later, there were like 20 police right here by the door." Neighbors said they believe the men who are Nigerian are brothers who grew up in the apartment and have lived there for years. Neighbors described them as friendly and possibly bodybuilders and said they have long wanted to be actors. Chicago police said they cannot confirm any of those reports. No charges have yet been filed. Earlier, police said the two persons of interest are not suspects and have not been charged. Investigators are only talking with them at this time. The two were picked up Wednesday night at O'Hare International Airport. And a lawyer who said she was representing the two persons of interest declined to comment on the case as she left Area Central Police Headquarters. Chicago police said they were tracking these two people and they were aware of who they were for quite a while. So this has led to accusations that Chicago PD, out of fear of being called racist, was slow playing the revelation that this may have been a setup and a hoax. So here is the theme that we should take from this. Wait for the evidence. It's amazing. This thing happened within a week of Covington High School. The entire media leapt to the conclusion that a bunch of white kids had harassed a Native American man on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial during the March for Life. Right? They jumped to that conclusion. Why? Because it fit a narrative. And then Jussie Smollett told a story that was ludicrously unbelievable on its face. And the media leapt to the conclusion that naturally it was racist white men on the streets of Chicago that had caused the problem. What does this say? It says the media are looking for a narrative. The narrative is racist white men do X. That is the narrative the media are looking for. They don't require any further evidence. Whenever that is the narrative, they're willing to jump on it with both feet. It also explains why it is that the media will pay inordinate attention, like truly grand attention, to anti-Semitic attacks by white supremacists, but will pay no attention to the vast bevy of anti-Semitic attacks taking place in Brooklyn every single weekend, apparently. Why? Because as the New York Times itself admitted, it doesn't fit the patterned narrative that we are seeking. The reason the Jussie Smollett case is important is not because an actor allegedly lied to the police. It's not because of that. It's because the media are always willing to jump with both feet on any story that backs a claim that America is a racist, terrible place. And then they will slowly walk back the claims as it comes out that that's not true. We've seen a bunch of these cases recently. There was a player, I believe his name was Michael Bennett for the Seattle Seahawks, and he claimed that the racist police in Las Vegas had physically assaulted him. Tape came out. It turns out that he had resisted the police and he had run away from them. These sorts of cases do happen, which is why the appropriate thing to do now, in a time where people do fib for media attention, where people do know what the media wants and then spoon feed those narratives to the media, and where the media are willing to run with those stories, the best thing you can do on any story, it's something that I'm learning, I think everybody is learning, you gotta wait 48 hours for anything. You gotta wait 48 hours for anything. If a story seems too good to be true, unless it is confirmed by a wide variety of sources, you have to wait 48 hours. Because there's a very good shot that within 48 hours, the entire story will collapse. This happens to be true with racial hoaxes, but it's true across a wide variety of stories.